I'm gonna go ahead and start recording. And we kind of saved it till last so you guys can maybe retain a little bit more information. So if we look at this, number one says which choice is the graph of y equals 4 minus x and x minus 2. Remember that this is the factored form. And these numbers, remember when we solved them, we just took them outside of the parentheses and changed the sign, are actually the x-intercepts. So we said when we solved it that x was -2. So that's the first one. We'll talk about the other one in just a minute. So we have to make sure that this graph crosses x at -2. So if we look at A, it does cross at -2. B does not cross at -2, so we can eliminate that one. C does cross at -2. And then D does cross at -2. So we eliminated one, that's not bad. But the thing is, they try to trick you here because they wrote this one backwards. Okay, they wrote it backwards. So remember what we're actually doing is we're taking this factor and setting it equal to 0 and solving. And so the way that I solve this, because my x is negative, I'm going to move it. I'm going to add x to the other side. And I get 4 equals x. If you did it the other way, if you decided to move 4, you would subtract 4. And you get -x equals -4. And then you would divide by -1. But you would still get +4. I don't care which way you solve it. It's fine. I don't care. This is just a shorter way. So then we're looking for it to cross at 4. If you look, this one crosses at 4. So that's going to be our answer. On C, it does not cross at 4. And on D, it does not cross at 4. So your answer has to be A. So do you need your calculator for that? Absolutely not. Okay, so you don't need your calculator for that. I'm hoping to get through this whole packet today. Okay, if we run out in 40 minutes, we'll finish it up tomorrow, and then you guys will have a new packet. All right, so this is the one, those of you that are sitting in here, I gave you graph paper for, because you'll need graph paper for it. These graphs look crazy because they're just quadrant 1. So I wanted to give you some graph paper so you can see what this looks like. So the first thing that we need to do to be able to graph it is to solve for y. And we know how to graph by hand, so don't act like you don't know how. Okay. So how do we solve for y? The first thing that we do is move x. So I have a positive 2x. So how do I move it? Subtract 2x. It's going to go in the front. So I have -y. Make sure you bring that down. Less than -2x and a +4. And then we divide by y, or divide by the number in front of y. So we're going to divide by -1. But remember, the one thing that we just did, if we divide or multiply by a negative, we have to switch the sign. So switch the inequality. I'm going to minimize this so we don't have to look at it. So now our equation is y. This time it's greater than, because we had to switch it. -2 divided by -1 is +2x. And then 4 divided by -1 is -4. And so if you look, they were really nice. All of these are dashed lines. Everybody see that? They're all dashed lines, so we don't have to worry about that. If it were equal to, it'd be solid. I'm going to take this graph paper. I'm going to move it off of here. I want you to just look at this graph paper. And this is the kind of graph paper you're going to get for your final exam. And I'm going to make my own coordinate plane. Let's see if I can get a little darker. Blue on blue is not very good. Okay. And then the equation that I'm doing is y is greater than 2x minus 4. Remember, that last number is your y-intercept. or where you start. So I'm going to start at -4. And then this 2 is your slope. And remember, we do rise over run. So we're going to rise 2, run 1, rise 2, run 1, rise 2, run 1, and keep going. And it is dashed, which is not important because they're all dashed right now. So what will that eliminate for me? I'm gonna put this back on my paper so you guys can see. I'm gonna pull this up. Here's my choices. Here's what this looks like. Do they match? No, so I can eliminate A. Same thing, these two are the same graph. The only difference is this one's shaded on the left and this one's shaded on the right. So B is not gonna be my answer either. So it's one of the other two, right? Is everybody good? Now we got to figure out the shade. So remember how we figure out the shade is we take 0, 0. Oh, sorry, -4. And we plug in 0, 0. And 2 times 0 is 0, -4 is -4. Is 0 greater than -4? Yes. So we shade where 0, 0 is. So is that C or D that shades where 0, 0 is? Which one? D. So your answer should be D on this one. That's probably, there's this one and one more that's like a lot of work. And that's about it. Okay. So the non-calculator active is not very hard. You just get lazy when you do it because you don't want to do the work. That's all. Okay. All right. How do we multiply these together? How did I teach you how to multiply these together? You guys remember? You're guaranteed to have one of these on your test. Guaranteed. Remember when we did the box? And we had an X and a +2, 3X and a -3. And then we said what meets in those boxes. So this box had 3X times X. What is 3X times X? Yeah, 3X squared. And this box across was 3X. Up and down was 2. What's 3 times 2? And we have 1X. In this box across, we had a -3. And top to bottom, we had an X. And we just squished those together to get -3X. And then in the last box across, I had a -3. And up and down, I had a +2, which gives me a -6. So then we added our diagonals. So they all started with 3X squared, so we were good with that. That didn't help us at all. What is -3 plus 6, or 6 minus 3? 3X. There's only one that has a 3X, and then our last is a -6. So make sure you know how to do the box method. Remember, if it's 2 times 3, which we'll get into, we'll find some like that. You do bigger boxes. All right. A line y equals mx plus b passes through the point 1, 6 and is parallel to y equals 4x plus 6. What is the value of b? What does parallel mean? They don't touch. That means they look like this. To be able to look like that, I told you guys that they had to have the same slope. Okay, same slope. So we're going to take what we know and we're going to plug it into y equals mx plus b. They give us a point. Remember, it's an x, y point. What's your y coordinate? 6. What does m represent? The slope. We want the same slope as this equation. So what number are we putting in for m? 4. What is our x value they gave us? 1. And then we're looking for b. That's what it asks us for. What is b? So we just solved this equation. What's 4 times 1? 4. And then how do I solve for b? I'm adding 4 to b, so how do I get rid of it? Thank you for answering everything today. I appreciate it. And then 6 minus 4 is 2. That's all you have to do. I'm going to hold off on number 5. It's not hard. It just takes a long time. Okay, so I'm going to hold off on number 5, but I'm going to come back and do it. All right. Number 6. A company models its net income in thousands of dollars with the function 9x squared minus 54x minus 144, where x is the number of units of product sold. How many units of this product does the company need to sell in order for the net income to equal 0? So it said f of x is net income. And it said it wanted that income equal to 0. So 0 equals 9x squared minus 54x minus 144. Now this question is going to be really hard for you guys because for the most part, y'all didn't do the factoring unit or the solving unit. You let up on me and you quit working. Okay. So this one's going to be a hard question for you. We need to factor and solve this. What is your first step to factoring? Zoomers, I need to hear you too. You're involved in this as well. What's your first step to factoring? What should we always look for so that we can make this factoring a little bit easier? You better learn factoring between now and Monday. Okay, I'm not kidding. It's going to be all over this test. The first thing that you're going to do is your GCF. I want to try to take this very first number out so that I can do cheater method and not have to do slide and divide. Okay, I want to do cheater method. So here's what I want to see. Can I divide 54 by 9? Can 9 times something give me 54? If you have to, do old school long division. This is not going to help on this one because it's only a one number. So 9 times 3 is 27. I know that one. 9 times 5 is 45. 9 times 6 is 54. So that one works. Okay. So what about 144? Think about old school division. 9 will go into 14 one time. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That gives me 54. And we just found out that it'll go into 54 6 times. So they're both divisible by 9, which means I can take that out. 54 divided by 9 was 6. 144 divided by 9 was 16. Once you get that GCF and it's just a number, it doesn't matter anymore. A letter would, a number does not. Now we can do cheater method. Because we don't have a number in front, I need factors of the last, negative 16, that add to negative 6. If you have to, you have scrap paper, you're going to have to use it on the non-calculator active. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're going to have to use it. So factors of 16 are 1 and 16, but I want negative 16. So that's either going to be negative 1 and 16 or negative 16 and 1. I have 2 and 8. So it's either going to be negative 2 and 8 or negative 8 and 2 And I also have 4 and 4, so one of them would have to be negative. If I add these together, 16 minus 1 is 15, so that one's not right. Negative 16 plus 1 is negative 15, so that's not right. 8 minus 2 is a positive 6, so I'm almost there, but it's not right. But then I get negative 6 because this one gives me 0, so that one's no good. So these are my two factors, x and a negative 8, x and a positive 2. And then think back to the very first question we did. What are your answers to this? If I have an x minus 8, what is my actual answer? Not minus 8, but positive 8. Not positive 2, but can I sell negative product? So my answer is 8. Again, we'll come back to number 5. Guys, you need to learn to factor or review factoring. You'll get some like number 7 where you're just setting up equations and they're really easy. You just have to read. So Joanna has a total of 50 coins in her purse. The coins are either nickels or quarters. So if you look at your equations, we have N's and Q's, nickels and quarters. We have 50 of them. So nickels plus quarters equal 50. Nickels plus quarters equals 710. Nickels plus quarter equals 710. Or this one has some all kinds of jacked up mess, right? This one's not going to be it. You already know. Has to be this one. How did they get the second equation? The value of the coins is 710. How much is a nickel worth?
5 cents.
How much is a nickel worth? 5 cents. You write that like 0.05. How much is a quarter worth? 25. You write that as 0.25. So if I take the number of nickels and the number of quarters that I have and I multiply by the value, I should get $7.10. Again, the N plus Q comes from, I have nickels and quarters that total 50 coins. It doesn't matter about the value of the coins. You just have 50 coins in your hand. All right. What does the y-intercept mean? What I tell you the y-intercept also is? The y-intercept or?
Where you start.
Where you start. You're going to read your questions and see which one says where you start. The initial height of the candle, the final height, you know, that's the end, so we don't want that. The rate, anytime you see rate, that's your slope, okay? Rate is slope, so we don't want that one. The amount of time it will take the candle to burn. So is it the initial height or the amount of time it'll take? If we're talking about the start, initial. Remember, your initials are the starts of your names, okay? So A is your answer for number 8. All right. This one is a reading question. It's not really a math question. There's a little bit of math to it, but not a lot. It says the total cost in dollars of a membership in a fitness center is given by the function. Here's your center membership equals 20M plus 40. M is the number of months. In dollars, how much is the cost of a membership for 1 year? It's not in years. What's it in? Months. How many months are in a year? Okay, so 12 months equals 1 year. So we're going to do 20 times 12, plus 40. Guys, if you have to, I know what 20 times 12 is in my head. If you don't, You have paper. You know how to multiply. Okay, go back to old school when you had to multiply. And I know you know how to do it because my third grader knows how to, fifth grader, sorry, he knows how to do it. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 2 is 4. Fill in the space. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 2 is 2. Add it up. We get 240. So 20 times 12 is 240 plus 40. 240 plus 40, if you have to put it over here, do that. Gives you 280. That's all it wanted. Not hard, and it's not hard math. The math that you've done so far is not hard math, okay? All right. We're gonna skip this one. This one, number 10, I think is the hardest question because it's got decimals on this whole thing, okay? So it's the hardest question on this whole thing. So we'll come back to it. All right, this one is writing equations, inequalities for this matter, but it's really simple. It says X represents Sally's monthly paycheck. So X is the paycheck, Y is the monthly savings. All right, Sally will save at least 20 more than half of her paycheck each month. Okay, so she will save what represents her savings. Y. How do I write at least? What does at least mean? So if I have at least $20 in my wallet, what does that mean I have? The least I can have is 20. So I could have more, right? So $20 or more. So that means greater than or equal to. So you may want to write that somewhere. At least is greater than or equal to. Okay. At least. 20 more. So what do I do there? 20 more than. That means I'm adding half. And what represents her paycheck? X. So I'm going to look for that equation. Y is greater than or equal to 20 plus 1/2 X. And it might be flipped around and that's fine. So here I have 1/2 Y and 20. That's not good. That's not, so it's not A. I can already eliminate A because that equation is not even in there. Look at this one. Y is greater than or equal to 1/2 X plus 20. They just switched them around, right? So that one's okay for right now. What about this one? Less than or equal to 1/2 X plus 20? No. Here's another one. X is greater than or equal to 1/2 Y plus 20. Is that right? No, that's the only equation I had to write, and I can move on. Let me show you the rest of them just so we can go over some words. She can save. Savings are Y. At most, that means no more than, so less than or equal to. 80 more than 2/3 her paycheck was X. That's where the second equation comes from. The third bullet or the fourth bullet down here, her paycheck each month, her paycheck, which was X, is at least greater than or equal to 1,200. There's where that equation comes from. But no more than, so less than or equal to 1,850. There's where that equation comes from. So again, know how to write equations from those words. And that's from like the very first unit that we did. Okay, so there's number 11. Number 12 gives you the equation T equals 581S plus 150P. 10 more minutes, bear with me, 10 more minutes. Which formula can be used to determine the number of printers purchased given the total cost T and the number of computers purchased? So you guys see how they're all solved for P? So we want to get P by itself. So remember all the way back in the beginning of the year when I said this, What's on the same side as P but not with it? What's on the same side of the equal mark as P but not with it? 581. How do I get rid of a positive 581? What I do to one side, I do to the other. So I get T minus 581S equals 150P. And then I want P by itself. So how do I get rid of the 150? Divide it. Y'all, that's it. If you'll ask yourself those questions, you'll get the answer. So here it is. T minus 581S over 150. Watch out for B. That 150 has to go over both of them. Okay, 150 has to go over both. So there's number 12. Thirteen says, what is the value of the positive zero of the function? Zero means set equal to 0 and solve. Set equal to 0 and solve. So we're going to take x squared minus 121 and set it equal to 0. How do I get x by itself? This is one of the last units we did, solving this square. How do I get x by itself? How do I get rid of that 121? I get x squared equals 121. Do you remember how to get rid of the square? Yeah, the square root, that little checkbox thing. So we're going to take the square root. And remember, there are two answers. There's a positive answer and there's a negative answer. Okay. What is the square root of 121? Remember, square root means it's two things multiplied together. So like 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 would be 4. So the square root of 4 would be 2. 3 times 3 is 9. The square root of 9 would be 3. So you're trying to figure out what you can multiply together to get 121. 4 times 4 is 16, so that doesn't work. I'm going to keep going. 9 times 9 is 81. I'm almost there. 10 times 10 is 100. 11 times 11 is 121. So it asks for the positive 0. So your answer is 11. Okay. They're not going to give you a decimal on that one. Okay. The non-calculator active, they're going to do things that are easy. You should probably know your square roots from 1 to 13. Like, what is 13 squared? 13 squared is 169. That's about where they stop. All right. 14 says, what's the value of x in the system of equations below? So you have to solve them at the same time. So remember, I told you this one's already solved for y. So we're going to take this and plug it in for y right there. So we're going to keep our 5x, and we're going to keep our plus 4. But instead of y, we're going to put in 1 minus x and set it equal to 1. You want to simplify this so that 4 has to be distributed. So we get 5x plus 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times negative x is negative 4x. Watch your signs. Combine your like terms. What is 5x minus 4x? 5 minus 4 is 1x. Plus 4 equals 1. I want to get x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 4. 1 minus 4 is negative 3. And you can divide by 1 or you can just leave it alone. I just left it there for you guys to see. But it gives you negative 3. And it asked for the value of x. If it asked for y, we would just plug it in right here. So if it asked for y, we would do 1 minus negative 3. Minus minus is a plus. And y would be 4. But it didn't ask for y. I'm just giving it to you. Typically, they'll ask for y and not x. All right. Number 15 is another factoring. I told you you needed to be able to factor between here and Monday. Okay. What's the first step to factoring that I need to do? GCF, I want to try to take this 2 out. Can I divide 8 by 2? Can I divide 24 by 2? So that 2 will come out, and I don't have to worry about it. 2 divided by 2 is 1, or just x squared. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 24 divided by 2 is 12. Now I can use the cheater method. If I have to write them all down, you have plenty of time. I need factors of -12 that add to -4. So we can do 1 and 12, but one of them has to be negative. We can do 2 and 6, but one of them has to be negative. And we can do 3 and 4, but one has to be negative. And those are all my factors. These don't add to -4. These don't add to -4. These add to +4. So these will be my 2 factors. Okay. I'm going to have x and a -6, x and a +2. And then what are my 2 answers? The -6 gives me a +6, and the +2 gives me -2. It wants the smaller 0. So which one's smaller, 6 or -2? That's the one it wants. Okay. So we have about 3 minutes left, and those 2 questions, either one of them that I do will take longer than 3 minutes. So we'll hold off and we'll finish those couple of questions tomorrow. And then after we finish those questions, we'll start a new packet. So you guys probably won't have the packet, but you can get it offline. I'll have it posted tomorrow. Okay. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing, stop recording.